Welcome, Acupocalypse preppers and naturopathic debtors. I'm Ryan Hofer, naturopathic doctor, and this is Debt by Natural Causes. You can view the entire post archive on Substack, including school reviews, interviews, and data analysis. And I'm hoping to do a video update like this roughly every 3 months. Today, we'll go over the problem, the loan caps, the earnings test, and the schools. So let's start with the problem. The problem is pretty simple. At scale, alternative medicine graduate programs don't produce graduates that can pay back the cost of the training. This is a sort of open secret. It precedes the 20 years of the Grad Plus Unlimited Loans program, which is coming to an end soon. And I haven't seen any evidence there was ever an alternative medicine sector that ever supported gainful employment for alternative medicine graduate degrees at scale. There's a few anecdotal success stories, but overall the outcomes are pretty bad, as we will talk about. So in 2023, OPB articles described the debt to earnings issue along with the closing of OCOM, the Oregon College of Oriental Medicine. So control room, can we show the graph in the OPB article? All right. So you can see this is debt to earnings ratio among graduate programs in the United States. And the caption says, students at 2 Oregon alternative medicine higher education institutions end up with a large amount of student loan debt compared to their earnings 4 years after graduating. Most graduate programs in the U.S. have a debt to earnings ratio below 150%, and you can see the outliers there. The Oregon College of Oriental Medicine, 651%, and the National University of Natural Medicine, the first professional degrees there, have a debt to earnings ratio of 766%. Okay, thanks, control room. So you can see there that the OCOM and NUNM debt to earnings percentages were far worse than the majority of graduate degree programs. Next, let's take a look at a Substack table I arranged of the HEA group data on debt to earnings. This was released in 2023. The earnings were measured during 2018 to 2020, 5 years after graduation. So you can see this is organized in a descending order based on the debt to earnings ratio. NUNM 765.6%, the first professional degree. Bastyr University doctoral degree 687.7%. OCOM master's degree 651.1%. NUHS doctoral degree 580.3%, 5 Branches University master's degree, 547.9%. So you get the idea, and you can take a look at that on my Substack. Thanks, control room. So yeah, you can see all those CIP code 51.33 programs, the alternative medicine programs, and you can look at those percentages. Really, you need the debt to earnings percentage to be around 100% to make repayment realistic. I mean, if it's not 100%, then you're looking into just running out the clock, like making 25 years of payments on income-based repayment, or you should probably look into public service loan forgiveness, 10 years of qualifying payments. So now let's look at the 20 worst performing programs out of over 6,300 graduate programs analyzed by the HEA group. So this is the same data, it's just overall, not just alternative medicine programs. But again, NUNM 765.6%, Bastyr University 687.7%, OCOM 651.1%, Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine and Health Sciences. So that's now Sonoran. Sonoran's listed as CIP 51.12, but that must be an old classification or a misclassification, because that degree at Sonoran should be 51.33 alternative medicine. So you can see that would make 10 of the worst 20 graduate programs in this data set. 10 of the worst 20 are alternative medicine graduate degrees. And you can also see there's like Columbia University Film, 581.4%. What else? Life Chiropractic College West, so chiropractic first professional degree, 512%. But that gives you an idea of how the alternative medicine degrees, how they're represented in the worst 20 graduate programs out of over 6,300 graduate programs in the United States. All right. So basically, the degrees aren't worth the cost. So this brings us to what's the solution? And the whole mess shows the federal government needs to make some changes, because the loans for alternative medicine graduate degrees are never getting paid back. So that's where they came up. And there's similar problems with other graduate degrees too. So the Republican Party came up with the July 2026 loan caps in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And that's going into effect July 2026. So there's no more unlimited Grad Plus loans for living expenses. That's just gone, so that's going to eliminate a huge amount of loan money. Loans for professional doctoral degree students are capped at $200,000 total and $50,000 per year. And master's degree student loans will be capped at $100,000 total, but it's only $20,500 per year. So that really limits master's degrees. If you look at tuition for alt-med graduate degrees, you'll see the caps will not provide enough money left over to pay for living expenses while students attend many of the programs. Private loans won't work because of students' credit history, and there's no proven ability to pay back the cost of the program. So any amount of research would show it's a bad investment for a private lender. So let's take a look at some of the degree prices currently. So let's look at the NUNM ND program. Yeah, great. So you can see that currently the year one total for tuition and fees, $42,400. And so if your loan was capped at $50,000, that would only leave you about $8,000 left over to live. And you can see that similar issue with all the years of that. So then let's look at the cost of living. Yeah, great. So this is the estimate for the doctorate and master's programs. So you can see the estimate $2,740 per month. So if you're looking at $3,000 per month, cost of living is $36,000. So you'd have to have, with a $50,000 loan, you'd have to have some other way of paying for like $20,000 to $25,000 or $20,000 to $30,000 of living expenses per year. So let's look at Bastyr next. And so let's look at the Bastyr Doctor of Acupuncture, DAC, and ND. Right, so you can see that, again, year one for Doctor of Acupuncture, about $40,000, so only $10,000 left over for living expenses, and year two, $35,000, $15,000 left over. Gets a little better in year three and year four, but same basic problem. And the Doctor of Naturopathic Medicine, Even more expensive. You can see year 3 is actually 57,000. So if you're capped at 50,000, it wouldn't even cover that. So big problem coming up starting July 2026. Let's look at Bastier's Masters, MAC and MAC with herbs. Great. So the master's degrees, now these are capped at 20,500, and you can see that currently just the tuition is 40,000, 35,000, 28,000. So that's all above the 20,500 cap for master's degrees. And then if you add in the Chinese herbal medicine specialization, it takes it far above 20,500. Sonoran's, I like this because they actually have a full-on estimate of everything put together. And you can see that like year 1, the total estimated cost is actually $95,000. Year 2, about $88,000. Year 3, $94,000. Year 4, $73,000. Additional credits, $10,000. So the total cost of the program, Sonoran estimates it to be $358,991. $358,991. But the total program cap is going to be $200,000. So the current cost is just way, way above the loan caps. You can see the annual loan caps of $50,000 and $20,500 don't leave enough money for living expenses. So what's going to happen? I don't know. I don't know how this problem is solved, but the schools might need to lower tuition so that there's enough money for living expenses, but then that reduces their tuition revenue, and they're already struggling. So let's talk about the schools. So the schools. I wrote a Substack post showing about 30% of all ACOM acupuncture schools already show objective signs of financial instability, such as a financial responsibility composite score below 1 or being on the heightened cash monitoring list. I also made a spreadsheet. I called it a Rosetta Stone spreadsheet, compiling all the essential information I use to track acupuncture schools. So let's show that graphic, control room, the Rosetta Stone sheet. Awesome, thank you. So you can see that I've laid out all the essential information there with the financial responsibility composite score and if the school is on heightened cash monitoring. And then I flagged the warning signs there. And it's about 30% of all the schools, which is crazy. And that's before the loan caps start in July 2026. You know, part of my, I guess, radicalization on this topic came from the 2024 OCOM closure, which was pretty obvious a few years before it actually suddenly occurred. The students and faculty had the school collapse on top of them. Luckily, the students were able to finish at NUNM, but that closure was just the beginning of the problems. I could do an entire show on Bastyr University, which is on a show cause sanction for financial stability by NWCCU, the accreditor. And NUNM is trying to raise $5 million over the next 2 years. Sonoran relies on a few large donors each year to balance the budget. And so all of this is before the loan caps start in July 2026 and before the earnings test. So let's talk about the earnings test next. Just this past week, the Department of Education conducted a negotiated rulemaking session about implementing the One Big Beautiful Bill, including the new earnings test. And the first official results are going to come out in July 2027. This test compares earnings with lower degrees. So bachelor degrees are compared to high school diplomas, master's degrees are compared to bachelor's degrees, and doctoral degrees are compared to master's degrees. And the idea is that higher degrees should actually result in greater earnings. And Control Room, can you put up the Department of Education estimate slide, the estimate of failing master's degrees? This blew me away. All right, so this is from the Department of Education. This is an estimate of which master's degree programs will fail the upcoming earnings test. And you can see that the alternative and complementary medicine and medical systems master's degrees, 98% of students in these programs, those programs will, 98% of Title IV students in master's degree programs in alternative and complementary medicine fail the proposed rule. So that's looking, that's looking bad. That's looking very dire, 98%. So, and actually some other more specific data came out, and I'll talk about that more on my Substack, where you can see the actual specific numbers. But as I said, the first official earnings test results are scheduled for July 2027. And if you fail, the school has to notify all current and prospective students. So as you can see, 98%, that's a dire situation. The first official earnings test results are scheduled for July 2027. So that will affect fall 2027 enrollment. If a program fails the earnings test, then all current and prospective students must be notified. And if a program fails 2 out of 3 any consecutive years, then the program loses access to all federal loans. So, I'm not selling cheesecake. It's not fun, but it's really important to understand what's going on with acupuncture and naturopathic medicine graduate degrees, and how they're a really striking example of the student debt crisis. And when schools close suddenly, it really exacts a huge cost from students and staff. So really would be better to avoid those types of situations. You can keep up with the story at Debt by Natural Causes on Substack. You can find me on Instagram and Blue Sky at NaturoRyan. I'd love to hear about your experiences with these degrees. And I look forward to more data, more interviews, and more reality checks throughout 2026. Take care, everyone. Thank you.